Welcome to the Books That Make the World Better podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Browdy, and I'm so delighted to be here today with Anne Yeomans, author of the new book, We Used to Call Her Mother. Anne is a psychotherapist in the psychosynthesis tradition and a poet. So, Anne, welcome.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah. So this book, it's a slender volume of poetry, but I think it's extremely powerful. So I'm excited to introduce our listeners to it and to you. And I don't know, I think maybe we could start with a little bit of biography and how you came to be publishing a book in Russian and English.
Okay.
About the Great Mother.
Well, the first, I've always been interested in female wisdom, my own and what I've seen around me. And that's just been a thread throughout my life. And as I understood more about the way our culture holds that, I got more interested, did a lot of reading. And then these poems began to arrive and they got my attention. And at one point I thought, well, maybe I could put them together in a little book. But really in the 80s and 90s, I just immersed myself in what began to be called women's spirituality. It was like a food I've been craving, and there was a lot of good writing going on at that time. And at one point, I had an opportunity to go to Russia. Well, I think I should say that I began to participate in these women's circles, first as a participant, and then I began to hold them. That's what we call, rather than leading, I put my arms around them, and we moved in that direction, and I moved in that direction with my work. And I found it deeply kindred, satisfying, and transformative, really, for myself, for the others who participated. And we believed that if we could create circles for women that were safe and beautiful, a lot would happen. And indeed, a lot did happen. Now, along the way, you may remember the 90s when things began to open up with Russia. Gorbachev was there, and a lot of big changes were happening, and people were going. And we went, my husband and I, different points. And I had been doing the women's work and thought, well, I should bring that there, or I can offer that or talk about that. And at one point, we went to Lithuania. I went to Lithuania, where we had some free time as well as our teaching. And they asked me, who would you like to meet? Would you like to meet nurses? Would you like to meet politicians? Or what would you like to do in your mornings? I said, I like to meet women. What kind of women? They said. I said, just any kind of women. So I was taken to someone's house, to the top floor of their house, and there were maybe 12 women gathered. And I talked about how women in America, this was probably in the early 90s, were meeting together and talking to each other about things they'd never talked about before, and how exciting that was and how comforting. And they were very interested. And at one point, I did a guided imagery, which was part of what our work was at that time in psychosynthesis, on the whole earth, to see the earth, and I called her she. And I felt a little bold in doing that, but I said, see the whole earth, and she, you can see her waters and her mountains, and everyone was there. And when I finished that, which was 5, 6 minutes, someone got up and left the room in tears, and other people were clearly very, very moved.
Mm.
And they said, did I know that in Lithuania, the earth was thought of as the mother, was called she? I said, no, I didn't know that. In fact, I had wished they'd sent me someplace like Moscow. But here I was in this country I knew nothing about. And did I know? And they told me, and that the earth was thought of as a goddess. Well, I was overjoyed. I mean, I had a feeling like I've just come back on my path in a way that I didn't know I was off. I've just come back and I've been given this opportunity in a place I really didn't want to go. Here it was. I'm in a place where the earth was called mother, and I think the word for earth is Geme, and the goddess of the earth her is Gemina. And then I learned slowly that Christianity came very late to Lithuania. And it turned out that Maria Gimbutas, who was someone I had been reading in America and was often quoted in these books, did I know that Maria Gimbutas was Lithuanian?
Mm.
Oh my gosh, no. So it was one of those magical moments where suddenly I'm in a place I didn't want to come, and I'm being given myself back again. I'm not sure that answered your question, but that's one of Russia's stories that was very seminal, and that just strengthened my conviction to go back and keep, working with women in this way and trust it even more.
Okay.
So,
Well, wait a minute. I have a couple of questions.
sure.
You say you were sent to Lithuania or to Russia? What,
Well, that does sound a little funny, doesn't it?
by whom?
Well, who knows who really sent me? But at that point, we were a group. We met in St. Petersburg. I'm glad you asked for clarity. And we were divided into small groups. We were a group a group of psychosynthesis people, and we were going to teach in these different cities. So we met in St. Petersburg, and some of us went to Moscow and Lithuania, and there were other places too.
I see. Okay. And then, how was the language barrier handled?
Well, there was always a translator,
So
and then
you
I
would
did
speak
not,
English?
I would speak English, and it would be translated. And there were good translators and translators who knew what we were about and very supportive and trustworthy, I think.
So then can you back up and tell us a little bit about psychosynthesis?
I suppose I could. uh, Psychosynthesis was founded and written down by a man named Roberto Assagioli. And he believed deeply that we had a spiritual dimension. We had access to it, and there was a self connected with that. So it was a very positive, holistic framework, and that there was a process. And if you paid attention, it would guide you, it would lead you. You could look for it. And that's perhaps what I meant by path. He was way ahead of his time, a man who had lived through 2 world wars.
In Italy, right? He's Italian?
Italian. He lived in Florence and we met him in 1972. And I talked to him about what he was saying, woman's wisdom. I think this is your mission. At that point, I was a mother of 2 kids. One of them I was still nursing. And So, yeah. And that became my work. First, psychosynthesis trainings for therapists and educators. And then slowly, this particular thread that I needed to follow and still do for women, including myself. Of course, it was my own healing.
Mm-hmm. And
Poetry,
psychosynth
not on the scene at all at that point for me.
poetry. And so psychosynthesis has grown and it's international, it's in the US, right?
In the US, it's in Italy, it's in England, it's in Switzerland. It's been in Australia, New Zealand. I think New Zealand. Yeah.
So when I think of Russia, I mean, the sort of mainstream idea of Russia is, I don't think of it as particularly spiritual. I mostly think of it in geopolitical terms, so this is a whole other dimension of Russia.
Well, I think that's also accurate, Jennifer. I think that is how we know Russia. But of course, think of the literature, uh, great literature, um,
Right.
Tolstoy, Dostoevsky. There's all of that too. Um, that hidden dimension from our politics, really, everywhere.
So how many times have you been to Russia at this point?
Well, when there's another piece of the story, which is I went back with Tom after 20 years. Uh, they established a postgraduate training institute there. I wasn't part of that, a little bit in the beginning, but mostly not. I came back to America, began to do work with women, and I learned so much from these circles. I felt like we began to talk about the circle as the teacher by helping women feel safe and listen to their own experience. So much came forth, and then after 20 years of Tom's work and these colleagues that we knew during the time, we went back to a conference, and I said, I think I want to come with you. And then I thought, well, what shall I teach? Well, I'll teach women's circles. So I talked about it at the conference. Maybe 35, 40 women came. And I didn't think I did a very good job because I couldn't get resonance in the way that I wanted it. What happened was a year later, I got an email from a woman named Natasha, and she said, I was there. It took a year to bubble up. There are 24 women who want to learn from you.
Mm.
Would you come? Well, I was overjoyed. I was just thrilled.
Hmm.
It was like, you bet I'll come. And I said, I'll come in the fall. That was probably during the summer.
Of what
And
year? What year are we?
we are in the 90s. I don't have it quite exactly. That first trip was probably probably the late 90s. Yeah.
Mm.
So I went, and I didn't know how I was going to do it. I really didn't, but I knew that it was the right next step. If I'm
Mm.
trusting that sense of direction and path and resonance. And a lot happened. And I went back 7 times in 4.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it was thrilling, Jennifer. It was so exciting and so deep, and there was such a hunger for
Hmm.
what it was bringing. I remember one particular time when I was at a conference actually presenting this work, and the women, and this is a conference of 350 maybe, and women kept coming in the door to my session, and I was worried because how am I going to work with all these people? There was about 70 women in the room, and the topic was the mother and the daughter, and I used the myth of Demeter and Persephone. Um, and and I said to them, doesn't anyone want to leave? There are other programs going on, and it's going to be so big, and nobody moved. So there I was with these 70 women. I thought, well, I don't want to have a long talking from me and lots of translation for them to sit through. I want them in small groups as much as I can. So I thought, what can I, but I want to hear every voice, I said to them. So I said, and then I was just making up things like that, hoping to get some help. And I said, let's introduce ourselves so we all hear each other's voices. And I'm going to start, and I'm going to say it this way: I am Anne, daughter of Ellen.
Mm.
And went to my left. That person spoke, and the next person spoke, and she said hers, and it was translated for me, and she began to cry. And she said, I never thought of it that way.
Hmm.
And it just opened up. And I knew as a facilitator how to deepen that. And so I said, everyone, breathe and let yourself feel this, and we'll keep listening. And it went on and on like that. But it was very, very powerful. It was like opening a door to something that hadn't been addressed for a long time.
Yeah. So Russia is a very patriarchal culture, I gather.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe.
now for sure.
Yeah.
There is this, this literature. There is uh, there is a lot of depth in that country.
Oh, yes.
It can't really surface now. There's not much room for it. You can get arrested for holding uh, a sign, or a blank sign even.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But so the women that you were working with around the turn of the 21st century, right?
yeah.
I mean, they had been through the, the Soviet Union period.
Certainly their mothers had been. Yeah,
Right. So I'm just thinking about the sort of deep layers of trauma that were probably being surfaced in this emotion that you're talking about welling up.
I'm
And
sure that's true, Jennifer.
yeah,
I'm
and
sure that's
how
true.
important that is. I mean, so um,
And
what
that work has been developed in all kinds of ways since, not related to me, but that kind of work with people has been developed, and many people have came in that door. Right now, I don't think I could go back.
to Russia?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I don't think I could get in. I don't think I could get a visa.
Hmm.
Mhm.
But the words can travel. Is this book available in Russia?
Well, we were able to get it there in a digital form.
Hmm.
I
So
wish
it's
I could send a box of them because I love how it
mhm.
looks, and it's just. But we sent it in a digital form to everyone that I taught that we had emails for, and
So
I just trust. I just have to trust that if it's alive and meaningful, it will be passed on.
it's circulating in bootleg form, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I have to say, you know that I had my Russian student. I have a student from St. Petersburg, she calls it, and I gave her the book to look at, and she did not want to give back the copy that I had lent her. So I said she could keep it. She
Good.
loved it.
Shall
Yeah.
I send you another?
Oh no, I have a copy, but it's
Oh,
just
that's wonderful. I don't think I remember that part of the story. I'm thrilled to know that.
yeah. So tell us a little bit about the book. What's in this little book?
There are 12 poems in this book. Um, I have to introduce another thread, which is how poetry came to me. I moved in 2005 to the country from the suburbs of Boston. And I had living in an old farmhouse with my husband. He was away, and I had a garden, and I had time. I had been working quite hard with a private practice and all of that. I had time, and I didn't know anybody here. So I'm out in the garden and digging away, weeding, and I think, oh, this is incredible. Gardens. This is what they were talking about, really. I can hear a woodpecker, the sun, the whole thing was so beautiful. I said, gardening isn't big enough a word for this experience that I'm having.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and then poems started coming into my head. They really did, as if they'd been waiting for me to be quiet enough, to not be taking care of other people, to be still enough to listen. They would come just like birds landing, and I would cry. I
Mm.
would. It would make me cry. I was like, what? You know, where did you come from? And you want me to pay attention to poems? I had been an English lit major, but nothing more. I never thought of myself as a poet I was a good writer for workshop blurbs and things, but I never thought of myself as a poet. So here suddenly I have these
Mm.
poems. And, that is, and then they began to take the form of the work I was still doing, women's spirituality, or those issues, because one of those issues is definitely a reclaiming of women's experience of the earth, but also finding one's voice to speak clearly about what's important, what's true. So that's how it came to be. And then I joined a poetry group because I thought, well, I should be with some other people and learn some things. And there was so much I didn't know. And I learned a lot from that group, which I was in for 17 years, a local group here of women.
Mm.
And so I had to come up with a poem once a month, but some of them were, were waiting, were not hard. So it was a merging of this poetic impulse that was new and alive and creative, and my work with women. That's where the book came from. And at one point I thought I should put these together. And that was when I think I couldn't go back to Russia. It was after COVID. We went on Zoom for a while, and that worked. It's not the same sitting in a room with 70 women
Mm.
or 30 or 20. Uh, but I did that for a while. And then I thought, I think I'll do it through writing now. And so that's how it came to be.
So is there a way you imagine the poems being received or used or?
I think that's a place I had to really let go. I,
Mm.
I don't know where they'll go. I don't know how they'll be used. I have to trust in the mystery of things.
Hmm.
But I did my part. I did my part of getting them there, and I'm happy about that.
Hmm. So when you say the poems just came to you, did you stop and write them down at that moment?
I'm sure I began to. I'm sure I began to, and it didn't. Oh, I see a rainbow behind
Mhm.
you. It didn't. Didn't. It didn't always. It was just that's the way the opening came. It didn't continue to that
Mm.
degree as in the beginning. It was almost like we're going to get your attention, Anne. So here's a poem. It was like really. It was very exciting, of course. The other interesting thing that I'd like to speak about, because it's so related to receiving inspiration, I guess, is that besides my circle of poetry right here in this area, I decided I needed to take another course in poetry. So I went to a course, 10 week maybe, with a poet that I didn't know but had heard good things about. And what happened was the first three classes were about generating your writing, you're generating, creating. And then it turned to critiquing. And it was too soon for me.
Mm.
It was way too soon for me. This whole process was like a spider web. I mean, it was just delicate. And what happened, and this is so fascinating to me still, is the door closed.
Mm. Hmm.
And I was just devastated. It was way too soon for someone to say, well, if you shorten that line and put way too soon. And it gave me an awful lot of respect for the creative process that I was in. And it didn't come back for a while, and I worried it would never come back. And a friend of mine, uh, a young friend of mine, said, "Anne, it will come back." And of course it did. But that was the feeling, like this is gone.
Mm-hmm.
I was,
Yes. I have to say this happened to me too in a creative writing class. I took fiction writing when I was in my 20s,
yeah,
and it was the whole critique thing was it just shut me right down, and it took actually years to get back.
yeah.
Yeah.
It took probably months, but for me, but it was, and the first ones weren't particularly inspired as they came back.
Well,
But
you were older,
I was,
but I think a lot of people who are in these classes as young people, that it, it really is damaging.
it really is. And that's why the best classes, like Amherst, writers and artists, they don't allow that, not in
Right.
the beginning. That's a,
Right. Me too. I try in my classes, to focus on the kind of critique that's really valuable and productive. Like, I'd like to hear more about
yeah,
this, that, and that's it.
right.
Yeah.
Or this really moved me. I keep thinking about that image. Anyway, yeah, I like to tell this story because it's a teaching in itself. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Mhm.
So, is there a poem you'd like to share?
Sure. I'm going to read one that's right in the middle of the book, and it's been surprising to me how many people have mentioned this poem. It's about voice and coming forth your voice, and it's called "It's Time." Speak now, don't wait. I listen to the voices of doubt far too long. Speak now, don't wait. Your heart? Yes. Lean into it. It has things to tell. You are afraid? I understand. I too. Here, hold my hand. The fear is just a curtain we must go through. Speak now. On the other side of this darkness are companions. They are waiting, waiting for one more voice.
Mm, beautiful.
Thank you. I got a little note from someone from a reading I did just a few days ago, and she wrote, "I've gone through the curtain."
Mm,
I love that ending too, waiting for one more voice.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yes. And all of our voices are important.
Every single one.
Hmm. Yeah.
Single one.
I was thinking as you were reading about, um, the practice of psychotherapy is about coming to voice in its own way, but it's very private.
That's
It's
true.
a dialogue. And I think what you're calling for here is sharing that voice in public, outside, more broadly. Yeah. And as I think women have not been particularly encouraged to do that.
No. We have, and I used to teach about this too. I taught about it here and also there. Internalized patriarchy. We've taken in and begin to talk to ourselves the way the culture has seen us. So to identify that and get it out of the way is a liberation of coming forth as yourself. And of course, we need it. We need that female wisdom, whether it's carried by women or men. Uh, we need it so deeply. That was the unifying principle of this book, which was I only realized in as I after I'd finished it when I wrote the preface. The mother principle or mother wisdom the energies that are needed to create what some have called a culture of care,
Mm-hmm.
compassion, listening, attention to the most vulnerable. We know
Mm-hmm.
now another war has begun.
Yeah, I mean, our culture seems to be going in the opposite direction right now.
I like to think of it as the last throes of the patriarchy in its ugliest form.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just pulling out all the stops, including the lies. And it's part of it, the breaking down.
Hmm.
So mostly I think that way.
So that it's composting this better future.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
doesn't know that, but it thinks it's triumphing, but it's wrong. And we know this. It's not
Mm-hmm.
sustainable.
Mm-hmm. So, is there a way that you'd like to see sort of the circle work and the culture of care moving out among young women today?
Of course. Of
Is,
course. Yeah.
do you see it happening? Is it happening? Do we need to work harder to make it happen? We older
Well, I
folks.
see. It's interesting. I just gave a talk because of the book. I've had a number of opportunities to express myself, and I got a number of letters. And well, this is not the young woman's story you're looking for, but I got a letter from a 91-year-old woman who said, I read your book and I want to find a women's circle.
Mm,
That's wonderful. And so we probably need a little exchange where circles can be born.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Yeah. I also got another letter from a woman who said, I loved what you were doing, but I'm drawn to work with men as well. And I said, oh, please do trust yourself. Because I think at the time when I started, it was so important for this female space. And I think it always is important. We're healing so much, but I also think it's time for there to be, many gendered
mm-hmm,
and non-binary as well circles where
mm-hmm,
we really get a safe place to drop in, to listen to ourselves and speak what our truth is, and have it be received, not criticized, not judged, not evaluated, but received. And out of that speaking, as I said earlier, comes the wisdom, comes the circle as teacher, a non-hierarchical form.
mm-hmm.
Mhm.
This is, I mean, the challenge is trust.
Yeah,
We're not in a trusting time.
no,
No. So develop, I think having the person like you who can hold the space and create that trust is not a trivial thing. It's essential really to have that person who can hold it, or a pair of
yeah.
facilitators. Yeah.
And
So,
then some guidelines. There's a phrase I'd like to introduce, which is a coherent microculture. We can't change the whole big thing, but I can work with a group of 12 or 20, and we can create a place of trust and beauty,
mhm,
listening. And some of it comes from just the place. I know it makes a huge difference the place I'm in when I do that.
mhm,
It's an energetic thing, but I love that phrase, coherent microculture, because
mhm,
uh, it's very doable.
mhm.
Yeah.
And then, Jean Shinoda Boland's idea of the million circles. So
Ooh,
I think maybe what needs to happen is training the facilitators so that these circles can multiply.
yeah, I'm sure
Yeah,
that's true.
I
And that
think
kind of thing is going on. There are books that have been written about it. I'm going to write something now on the circle. That's my next project.
good. Good. We need that. I when I was doing uh leadership a leadership program for young women, I had the idea that there should be a parallel leadership program for young men,
Yeah.
and that they should meet separately for a period of time, and then with the intention of eventually coming together and knowing that they would eventually
It's
come
a beautiful
together.
idea.
Yeah. I would love to see that happen. And I think for people of all ages,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I'm creating, yeah. The person that I've been, who's a friend now, a man named Rob Oken. I don't know if you know his name.
Yeah. I
He,
do.
you do? Oh, good.
Hmm.
Well, he published Voicemail, and he was
Yes.
so interested in what you're talking about. And so we have to pay attention to our men and boys. What are we
Yes.
doing to them? What are we leading them into? He published, I wrote a poem on Christine Blasey Ford, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and he published it in his
I'm
magazine.
I get that magazine. I'm on his list. Yeah. Uh-huh.
He's passed it on now, but he's still writing op-ed pieces.
Hmm. Yeah, we need these good men
We need these good men.
to do this work. Yeah.
I also think I have 2 sons and 4 grandsons.
Hmm.
A lot of men in my life. Uh, I do have one granddaughter, and I love her too. But uh, the men in my family, if I go back a generation, really suffered. Really suffered.
Hmm.
Uh, uh, there was alcoholism. There was a suicide. There was just no place for the wholeness, the sensitivity. There just wasn't.
Hmm.
But it needs to happen, and Rob is really on it in terms of, and I'm sure it's a broader thing than I know. I just know his work. We need to attend to our men and our young men.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Well, that is part of the work of the mother, right?
Yes. Oh, that's where I was going. I was thinking, as a mother, I had an opportunity to, hold that and support those places in my sons.
Hmm. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mothers have a lot of influence.
They do.
Yeah.
They don't get enough credit for it.
Yes, I also have two sons that
Do
I
you?
I think are good men. Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I didn't know you had 2 sons. That's interesting, Jennifer.
And now my first granddaughter. Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
Yes, but
Yeah, to bring good men into the world, this is a really wonderful thing. I'm sure you did. I know I.
yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know. I never feel like I can take that much credit, but I look at them and I really appreciate what good men they have become.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great.
So, yeah. So, is there another poem you'd like to share?
I'd like to share the first one,
Okay.
which is the title poem of the collection and of the book. And it's interesting to go back to that moment when in Lithuania they said to me, "Did you know we think of her as a goddess, as she?" We used to call her mother. We used to ask before we took, take only what we needed and pray before we even set out. That was in the time when we knew she was our source, that we were nothing without her. Now we take all we can. There is no kneeling and no prayer. When what we want is gone, we use any means to get some more. Blow up mountain tops, force streams of water into her, drill deep and dangerously. We kill for what we think is ours. Oh, Mother, when will we fall on our knees once again and remember your name?
Hmm. Giving me goosebumps here.
Well, I when I look at this poem, I think, did I steal this? Where did it come from? Because I think it's
That's
so
yeah.
powerful.
Hmm.
I think it's so powerful.
It is. I mean, as you were reading it, I was thinking this should be translated into more languages, not just Russian.
Great. What a great project.
Yeah, Spanish, French.
That's a great, no one has suggested that, but I love it.
Mm,
Mhm.
yes. And also you reading them and getting the audio. I think we need to pursue that project too.
I've been told that by a number of people when I did the reading out at Diane's house. Yeah. So, yes,
Yeah.
that one I know by heart, really. I'm a little afraid to completely let go, but I do know that one by heart. I think there should be something like that. It would be great.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, because they're almost like, well, they are, they're prayers. I think,
So,
yeah.
I think so. I don't think I really realized that, but I think that they are.
Hmm.
Some
Yeah.
of them are stories too, like the one that comes from Rocamadour, France, where I'm walking up these ancient steps. But they're stories, but they're not theories for sure.
Right. Well, that story is sort of like a pilgrimage
Yes, it
story,
was. It's a
right?
pilgrimage story.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, there is something interesting in the idea of prayer as a poetic form, you know.
Yes, yes. We've been recently in a memorial service where a psalm was read. It was a good
Hmm.
example of that.
Yes. And of course, I don't know enough to know about what's the women's tradition of, written prayers that are passed down or do you? Do you know anything about that?
I don't. It would be really interesting to know. I do remember this moment, though, in my teaching in Russia. It had been a powerful morning. I don't remember exactly at all what happened. And it was, I think, just before the lunch break or maybe at the end of the day. And I said, I didn't know what to do. It was one of those, I don't know. Please help me. And so I had us stand together and just hold each other's hands, or people maybe put their arms around each other. And there was a swaying that began, just this really comforting swaying. And then suddenly I had the thought, does anyone have a song?
Mm,
And someone did. And everyone knew it. And I think it was a lullaby.
mm,
I don't know that for sure, but it was so beautiful and had come from the group, and it was shared. It was a collective. So I'm sure there are lullabies too that are
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
comforting the children.
Yeah, and songs. I mean, songs are more of a vernacular that women had access to over
Sure.
the centuries. Yeah. Yeah. So, well, anything else you'd like to share that we should know as we open this beautiful book?
Uh, this has all been a surprise. That's
Mm,
the other thing I want to say. I didn't expect it. I didn't plan for it. I didn't try to make it happen. I just kept saying yes.
hmm. That is a beautiful place.
Yeah, I feel so. No, I never set out to be a poet. Not me. I'm, uh, I feel so blessed at my that this has come, this richness, and it has many pieces of it. This richness has come to me right now. I just feel so grateful
Mm.
and surprised.
And we are grateful that you took the time to write these down
Thank you.
and have them translated and
I,
illustrated. We haven't
yes,
mentioned the
we haven't talked
illustrations.
about that.
Mm. Do you want to tell us a little about that?
Yes, I will. These are illustrations from the books of Maria Gimbutas, who was Lithuanian, as we mentioned, an archaeologist who eventually ended up at UCLA. Very, very brilliant woman. And they're from the Neolithic period, which is about 5,000 to 3,000 BC,
Hmm.
BCE as used now. and they are from cultures that live closely with the earth, and uh, and they're all off pots or designs on walls. Here's another one that I just love.
So
And
yeah, they're on pottery or walls. I was
yeah,
wondering about that.
pottery, mostly pottery. Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Show us the one on the back cover. The one on.
Yeah. Around the rim. Of,
Okay.
yeah, isn't that beautiful?
Yes.
Yeah, they're deep. They're deep, and you look at this, and it's very satisfying, and you don't really know. But she deciphered them and talked about a sacred script that people they had a symbolic meaning for people. Anyway, her work is fascinating, and I got in touch with the archives where they are at UCLA, and um, got permission to use them, which was a little adventure. Yeah,
Yeah. They really add a lot.
I thank you. I think so too. They give that ancient their door to the ancient wisdoms, I think,
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
in the earth-based cultures.
Yes. All right. Well, Anne Yeomans, thank you so much. Thank you for
Jennifer Browdy, thank you so much for inviting me and helping this happen.
absolutely. We will continue to send your good work out into the world. Yes.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm so grateful. Another surprise.
Mm. Thank you for listening to another inspiring episode of Books That Make the World Better.